Welcome to my section once again. I am Betsy, Nunoo, a software engineer with HackBerry, where I create mobile apps, web applications, websites, UI, UX designs. I'm currently doing my master's in technology and innovation management at the same university, to be precise, Turkey. Yeah, so I'm talking from Turkey. Fun fact about me is I love singing and I love listening to gospel music. All right, so let's get right into what we are here for. Introduction to React.js. So the outline for this section is that we are going to talk about React.js, who created it, some websites created by React.js, the pros and cons of React.js, and the prerequisites of this course. So actually, React.js is a JavaScript library that was created for fast and interactive user interfaces for web and mobile app applications. It's actually an open source, and guess who created it? Facebook did. So right from then we can move to apps that are created by React.js, which of course one of them is Facebook. Some of the reasons why people choose to use React.js is because it's very fast. It is very fast and flexible. You can create how do I call it? You can create components which are very, very reusable, and it's mostly used for single-page web applications. So some of the best websites that have been built with React.js is Facebook, British Broadcasting Corporation, Netflix. Yeah, Netflix is also built with React.js, Salesforce, Instacraft, Dropbox, and Flipboard. You can check that out also at your free time. Some of the advantages, like I said, it is easy to learn and use. Yeah, React.js uses what do you call it, the modern view controller model, and it has a lot of components, a lot of libraries you can make good use of. It's actually a whole lot. So what I'm going to do is to walk you through how to start a React project, and then walk you through, let us work on a mini project, then I'll explain what the project is. I would actually be explaining because we have limited time for you to grasp what React.js actually is. Some of the advantages is it's very dynamic in creating web pages. So initially I said that you can use React.js for single web applications, and it makes use of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which we call it JSX, that is JavaScript extension. I've already said that it has a reusable component, so I can create a component and then I would use it over and over again. React.js uses something we call something we call the virtual DOM, which works fast and changes the individual DOM elements instead of reloading complete DOM every time. The reason why I am saying this is because I'm presuming you are all not immature, because some of the prerequisites of doing React.js is actually you have to have a knowledge in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And God being so good, last year my section was about introduction to web development, where I spoke about and we worked on a project that was about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'm assuming all my audience here are conversant with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It also ensures performance enhancement in a sense that React, let's just say, when you take Facebook, you realize how fast Facebook is, right? Even though there's a whole lot of people on Facebook. So that is what we mean by performance enhancement. Like it uses the DOM to update each changes. Do you get it? So that is what we mean by performance enhancement. Okay, so I'll share the links. I'll share my slides actually. So I'm sure you can go through the rest of the benefits of React.js. Some of the disadvantages of React.js is it really had a poor documentation. I remember my first time when I was learning React.js, I had to go through a whole lot of ordeal to understand some of the concepts and in the document. But I mean, it's going to be, let's hope it's going to be revised in the future and it will be much easier. And also, React.js, it's more or less like for layouts, as in UI stuff, yeah. So, I mean, you can't just create a website, a web app with React.js. You need the backend aspect of it. And then with JXS is the barrier. When we say JSS is a barrier, it's because React uses both HTML and JavaScript mixed together. So it's a bit kind of clumsy if I'm supposed to use that word. And like I said earlier, the prerequisites of this course is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript Babel. So you should have a little knowledge about JavaScript. Fortunately, React also uses the new version of JavaScript, that is ECMAScript 6. So, and we all know the difference between JavaScript and then ECMAScript 6. Like, we know the correlation is just an advanced way of writing JavaScript, an advanced and simple way of writing JavaScript. And also, in order for us to be able to achieve this, we need a node package manager, that is npm, yeah, a node package manager. So we will have to install Node on your PC, and then I mean the very latest version of Node on your PC, and then we take it up from there. So we need a Node package manager in order to use the Node modules. That is some of the Node modules that is used for web applications. And most of the time, you can use npm or yarn, depending on what you prefer. I mostly prefer yarn, but for this purpose, we use npm. Git, yes, you have to have the Git knowledge. So Git is another must skill for a developer. You should be able to store your projects on GitHub. It's actually how do I say it? A good way of getting projects in GitHub. Like it's a rightful method. Like as a developer, you should have a GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab in order to be able to collaborate with other developers and probably work on an open source something, maybe build the next big web app that could be the next big thing. I don't want to mention names because I don't want to have any issues with any big developers. All right. So, like I said earlier, we're gonna walk through a tutorial and then I'll explain what this does because I'll explain what it does. Okay, so one of the things we needed to know about accessing React.js was to have a Git bash and Node.js node installed on my computer. So I have opened my Git bash, which is a Microsoft Windows environment that provides an emulation layer for Git command experiences. So when I want to send a code to GitHub, I use Git bash. I want to create a React environment, I use the same Git bash. You can use command prompt line, but I prefer to use Git bash because I have linked my GitHub to my Git bash. If that makes sense. So in order to get Node on your PC, you just have to go to this this URL, nodejs.org/cn, and download the current version for Windows, right? So you download it, and then once it comes, you can click download. Once the version comes, you know how to set up, right? So you double click it, set it up, and you can check the node version on your GitHub by pressing node space -v, and it tells you the version. So I don't really have the current version, which is version 17 that I just downloaded. I have version 14, but we can make do with that, okay? Yeah, so so sorry about that. So this is a React tutorial I would want us to go through since React has so many things, and if I start now, I just have 40 minutes to 90 minutes to finish this presentation. So can't finish talking about React in just 40 minutes. So the best way is to go through a tutorial, and then we can pick it up from there. So once you have your Node.js installed, you can install, you can start your React app by copying this and pasting it in your Git bash. So this tutorial is online. After this course, you can go and read and find out more about it. So I just pasted it. So this is npx create React app. It's my React app. But I need to tell it where to create the React app. Fortunately for me, I keep most of my what do I call it? Most of my code works on either my desktop or a folder that I have. So the to-do app where it's very, very simple because React library is full of so many things, and we need a simple project to be able to explain some of the terminalities and technology components and stuff that are in React. So I'm using this to-do app to explain some of the things, some of the codes, some of the functions, some of the classes, and all that are included in React.js. Okay, so I think I already have a file that is named my app. So it's conflicting to this. So let's do it my ADSC. Let's see if it works. So when you use this command to create a React environment, the good thing about it is that it creates React DOM, React scripts, all those necessary files, node models you need to make your application function properly. Okay. Okay, so now it is done creating a React app. I use Yarn most of the time, not npm. So you realize that creating it gives you some commands that you need to run. So Yarn starts the development server. Yarn builds the bundle of the app into static files for production. So it builds the app for production. Yarn test will test it and reject, moves tools, and copies build dependencies, configuration files, and script into the app directory. If you do this, you can't go back. So there are certain commands that when you do, you can't go back. So it's giving me that, it suggests that I do this command cd actually means open this kind of folder for me. Do you get it? All right, so what we're going to do is, since we're going to use Visual Studio Code, we'll just cd into my ADSC, and then using Visual Studio Code, the short code is code space and dot. It will open so it opens Visual Studio Code for me. Okay, and then I can do yarn start to start the server, right? All right. Okay, so yarn starts. So now, most of the time, React uses the port 3000 when the port is already used or occupied. It uses another port. So you realize it asks me a certain question that it asks me something is already running in port 3000. Would you like to run the app on a different port instead? And I said yes. So React uses the server port 3000 to host its applications. Okay. So back to the tutorial, the to-do tutorial that we are about to do. So first of all, we need to feed into our SRC, remove the app test, app.css, logo.sv, service worker.js, setup test.js because we don't need it. So you go back to you can use Control-C to stop whatever is going on. And then we cd into our results RC. That's our source folder, which contains the application in itself. That is the app test. So RM, it's a command to remove a folder. So remove app test.js app cs local.svg. And once again, service worker. We just copy and paste this instead of writing. So let's just copy and paste it. It doesn't recognize the RM. Said RM. So we can either do this or we can just delete it from the system, like directly. We can use the git commands or we can just delete it from the system. So we take this off, app dot sorry, app.cs, we delete it. Test app.test.js, we delete it. Logo.svg, we delete that one too. Something like service worker, I don't see it here. Setup for test, we delete that one too. Okay, so now what do we have? Okay. Okay, so now we copy the following and then paste it into our app.js. So I just copied it and let me paste it into the app.js. Okay, so when you're pasting, you have to be careful. You have to check where it is starting from and where it is ending. So we are just pasting the function with app, right? Okay, it ends at this side. Function.app. Okay, all right. So there's one important thing about React. When you are doing React, you normally import React React and then you import React DOM. From React DOM. We are not using this, so we aren't using app.css, so we delete them. We'll go back to our code. It says now open the public stroke index.html and change the title to do matrix. So what to do actually means that we have a list of things to do, and we want to be able to check or uncheck them as to whether we do it or it's not done, as to cross check what we've done and what we've not done. So let's go to public.index.js. So public.index.js, it keeps all the public files that doesn't get it. And then let's go to the title instead of React app. Let's do it ADSC to do. Okay. To do, yeah. I think that's pretty much okay. And then we refresh our browser. So let me see. On refresh of the browser, what do I get? I actually don't get anything because I stopped whatever was going on before I refreshed it. I stopped whatever was going on. So I just have to yarn start it again and see. Okay, so now we have to do matic, what needs to be done, an input section, and the 3 tags that are remaining. Show all active tags, show completed tags and all that, yeah. So back to our tutorial. I'm actually rushing this through, but I'll explain certain things, right? Okay, so let's go to the form that the code that we just copied and pasted into the app.js, right? So React uses a functional component or a class component, okay? In this case, we have a function component. So you see function app takes the properties, props just means properties, and then returns a div with class name as to do app, the stack large, okay? So with React, we have JX, we have, how do I call it? JavaScript coming together with normal HTMLs and then CSS, but mostly it's JavaScript coming together with HTML. And you can see fashion app as a knowledge from JavaScript, okay? But in this case, we are using HTML in its return function. And we realize that with HTML, your div, it is just class, it is not class name. But with React, its syntax implies that you use class names. And then very keen interest on the typo, okay? It is class with small c and name with capital N, all right? So you have each one element showing as to do, and then it takes the form, label for the form, what needs to be done, and then input for the form. You already know this, that's why HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is a prerequisite for this course, because most of the things that you write are HTML and JavaScript, so you already have a knowledge about this. So this is the button type for submitting, which in this case is add. And then we have another button type, which in this case shows all tags. Realize shows all tags has been written in different span tags. And then another button that says show active tags. Then another button that says show completed tags. And then this is our 8.2 with 3 tags remaining. This is our list item. So it's more or less like HTML, just the difference that you see is just the class name. Some syntaxes needs to be changed, right? And it's like a JavaScript function that contains HTML tags, right? Yeah, so back to our tutorial. So it says it's talking about some unusual attributes that you may notice here. The area pressed is actually for screen readers, those who cannot, they are blind. This is used for them purposely. And then the list items. You find list items also. So the tutorial is trying to explain stuff that I already explained to you. And also is talking about the JXS function, where our default check is true or false. So this is one of the, so we don't call it, how do we call it? We don't call it HTML, we call it JXX because it is HTML in JavaScript, kind of mixed with JavaScript here. So that is what we call it. And then it places emphasis on certain things that you need to note. The Boolean, true or false, and the area pressed also. So you can check that also out. And we have this element, we have this styling to make our app a little bit nicer and presentable. Like CSS makes the work graphically nice and presentable. So I've copied it, and then I will just have to paste it in the index. Okay, index.css, right? So src index.css. That is how to learn a new language. You just have to follow a tutorial closely to learn a new language, okay? So I'll just have to refresh my code. Boom. So one thing about React is that it's, because it uses the virtual DOM, once a change is made, it updates it very fast. You get it? Update is very fast. I didn't have to come and refresh like HTML where I'll have to refresh, or I'll have to use the live server to refresh, then it would take time. The changes will have effect, okay? You realize once I just pasted my CSS, it is working, like it's the change has already had an effect. I didn't have to come and reload the page. So that's one great thing about React, okay? So we could try our hands on the to-do-matic, what needs to be done. So maybe I need to code, and then I add it to my tags. Okay, so this this tutorial didn't actually go through the process of adding activities to the tags, yeah, but it actually went through the process of giving us the opportunity to start having our to-do functionalities here, having our all active and completed, And then it also gives us the chance to, how do I put it? It gives us the chance to check and uncheck some of the activities that we have to do, right? Some of the activities that we have to do, which is a very good thing. So you can go through this tutorial. I would send you the link to the tutorial, and then you can do some amazing things. Touch me up on Facebook, Betsy Nunoo, Instagram, Betsy Nunoo, LinkedIn, Betsy Nunoo, all social network platforms, it's Betsy Nunoo, except Twitter, and it's Betsy_NU. You can ping me up and we can continue this process, this section. We can advance it the more once you ping me out, or you could try your hands on it and try modifying, making some changes, and try advancing this app. I mean, making sure that some of the button functionalities actually work, that edits will probably let you edit, that delete will probably let you delete, that repeat will probably let you repeat. So we could try using remove this particular functionality. You can try using remove the eat activity from the list, and you can try adding more on the list. So this is basically JavaScript. You can just use elements get elements by ID, because I realized all the labels, fortunately for you, have IDs, so you can use get elements by ID JavaScript function to get this particular IDs, and you can also use to get the IDs, and then later on you can remove them, whatever you choose to do with them. You can just play around them and then ping me up, show it to me. If you have any challenges, we can talk about it and we can go through it. So that has been a very nice section. This is not all about React, but this is the introduction to React. That's some of the things you need to know about React. And there are so much more libraries concerning React.
Okay, so sorry about that. Initially, I said that I have 2 videos. This is the end of the first one. So we'll continue with this tutorial in the next video. After that, you can ask all your questions, if that is okay. Hello. Hello, please. Is someone there?
Yes, please, we are there.
Okay, so I would play the second video, which talks about React components. Okay, so this was just an intro. So now we're going to talk about React components, and then after that, your questions can flow.
Okay.
Hi, so this is Betsy Nunoo, and this is tutorial 2 of what we already done, and it's entitled React components. Okay, so you can ping me on Betsy Nunoo Instagram, Betsy Nunoo LinkedIn, Betsy Nunoo Twitter and Betsy Nunoo Facebook if you do not understand anything. My previous tutorials will be on HackFairy page, YouTube, okay? So we are just going through this tutorial and I'm explaining. So today we are talking about components in React.js. Last tutorial, we were able to achieve this to do with no functionality at all. So we're going to talk about components, okay? So what are components? In React, components are actually a group of code that you can reuse over and over and over again, okay? It's a chunk of code that performs a certain functionality that you can reuse over and over again, right? So in this tutorial, this is the command to create a component without going through stress. So you can just use this on GitHub to create a component, or there's another way to go about it, which you can just create a component on the SRC document. So you just create a folder and name it component. And then in the folder, you create, I think they named, let's check it out. What did they call it? Sorry about that, I have so many things opened. Okay, so they named it to-do.js, okay? So you can also go to components and then new file, and then you name it to-do.js. To-do.js. So it's advisable to have a normal way of naming stuff, okay? In this case, with React, it starts with a capital letter, okay? Starts with a capital letter. I mean, you can go other way, but let's just be consistent here, okay? All right, so back to that. I already told you how to import React from React.js from the previous tutorial. And then now we are going to use export default function to do. So you realize that from the app.js, we defined a function. We defined a function here with its properties, and then we exported it here. So another way to go about this is to export it right from the beginning. You don't even write function app or whatever. You just export it. So you export default function, and the function is to do. So you bring export default. The export default that you already have here, you bring it. So we can do it export default app, export default function app, and then we bring all this code in it, okay? So that is what we're going to do for this. So we just have export default to do with all these functionalities. So we don't need export function anymore. So I'll just copy from here, and then I'll paste it and explain the codes. All right. So what this function, what this default component is doing is that it takes, you realize it has a list. It takes the to-do stack, eat, edit, delete. The label eat is for an input checkbox. And then the edit delete is what do you call it? The buttons. So you realize from here we have it, what has been checked, and then edit delete. So what actually component does is that we don't have to repeat all this long process, okay? You don't have to repeat edit delete, edit delete, edit delete, each edit delete. We just have one code like this, each edit delete, and then we change its props, okay, to eat. We change the other props to sleep. We change another props to repeat. So that's how awesome React can be. Do you get it? That's how awesome React can be. We don't have to write a code over and over again, just like the old HTML where you want this functionality. So if you want 100 to-dos, you just repeat the code 100 to-dos. 100 to-dos, you just repeat the codes on your code 100 to-dos. But with React, you don't do it that way. You just have one component that you manipulate to make that repetition. So that is when we say components are reusable, right? Yeah, that's the importance of components. So we'll replace this. And then you realize this is just a part of the code from app.js. If you take a closer look at it, right? Closer look at it, you realize this is it. From list name to do stack small to delete. We've taken a portion of the app.js. We are just in coding, we call refactor code. So we wrote it this way, we are refactoring it into a better way where we can use components, okay? Yeah, so back to the tutorial. It says that components must always return something. So we realize we are returning something. And then in order for us to use our to-do component, we will have to what? We will have to import it on our app.js. And the way to import components is import to-do. So any component, the way you name it from here, you regard it as the same way here. So to-do, and then you give it directory, okay? And this, it is in one directory. So the directory will be represented by one directory as a dot, and then / component, right? And then another / to do. You don't add the .js because it already knows that what it's to do.js. And most of the time, that is how we import it. But you don't add JS. I mean, it wouldn't do any good, or it wouldn't change anything if you add the JS to it. Okay. So this is how to import the component. We check the directory. It is one directory. When we say directory, that means it is not, we have a folder in the source folder. So we have to enter that folder. In order to enter that folder, we use /. Okay. That's how to enter that folder. All right. So with this component, as we say with this component element and to do, our URL can look like this. So now we change the entire code in the app.js. The entire code in the app.js becomes as simple as this. You get it? As simple as this, because all the other codes that we were repeating, from here, we have exported it as a component in todo.js. So we can, this is our UL. Our UL, that's our ordered list. I'm looking for the ordered list. Yeah, row.list, but yes. So you can collapse it this way and replace it with what we copied, right? So now it becomes this way. And once you are using something you imported, you realize it's highlighted. We are not using React DOM, so it's a bit faint here, all right? So this is what we get. And then since it is one component, you realize this is what becomes of what do you call it? Our app. Okay. The component had eat, and like eat, edit, and delete. That's all the component has. Do you get it? But our previous, let me just undo what I did. Undo it, right, and go back. Realize that our previous app had eat, sleep, and repeat, right? Eat, sleep, and repeat. And then this just has eat, and eat because our component just has eat, edit, and delete, right? Just eat. So it repeats itself. We are repeating our component 3 times. This is how to reference the component in React. This is how to reference the component. It is a self-closing tag. So this is how to reference the component. And then if you want to change the element of eat, you can do that using props. Okay, we'll get there. So we want to change it, and we can give a component a property called name, where this name represents the exact to-do that we want to do. In this case, it can be eat, sleep, and repeat. Okay, so this will just modify the DOM to eat, sleep, and repeat. So now we have from plenty codes to just 3 lines of code doing the same functionality. You get it? Yeah, that is how awesome React can be. So from just this to that. So I'll just copy and paste. And I'm copying and pasting not because I cannot type. I'm not so much of maybe it's beacon girl, so spare me that. So now this is what becomes of what do you call it? Our to-do component. So to-do component now takes in props. It will take in props. And this property we can reference as props.name. So in React, if you want to do anything JavaScript, you use what do you call it? Curly braces brackets, okay? So we are referencing our props.name using curly braces, and then .name, properties.name. And properties could have anything we wanted to have. It could have more than one functionality. It could have a name, an organization, and a place. But in this case, we just have one label, which is the name. We are representing it by name. We can represent it with anything we want to. So we can change here to the braces props.name. Okay. and then we can keep our edits and delete, since that is the same thing, it doesn't change. So what we are changing is the property name, because it changes. We realize in our previous tutorial, or what I showed you earlier, realize we have eat, sleep, and then repeat, right? So the name changes. It's not the same throughout. What is the same throughout is our edit and delete. So we leave that alone, and then we deal with what? We deal with our name, which changes. So that is the dynamics of components, right? Yeah. So from here we have props.name, and then from I we have replaced our name with eat, sleep, and repeat. Okay, that's our property from eat, sleep, and repeat. Okay, so now you realize it has updated the DOM. This is how, like, the reason why I like React is because, I don't have to reload the page. The moment I just write something, it takes effect, right? So right now it has just updated the with eat, sleep, and repeat. That's how awesome it is, right? But in this case, all has been checked. So we'll have to deal with how to uncheck some of them. Okay, it's a component that, not all was checked initially, but this new component has some of them checked. So we'll have to change that, right? So this is what we get. And then in order for us to change the check aspect, you can see from here. From here, we have default check to be true. Default check to be true. So yeah, we want to change that functionality. And how to change that functionality is to create a new property that we can call completed. Okay, so we create a new property called completed, and in this case, so when we create a new property called completed, actually when I say create, I mean in our minds it is is a property. Okay, it's not coming from anywhere. In our minds, this is what we want to do. So we can add this property completed to our initial code. Okay, so you can have as many props as you want, but the good thing is you are not repeating the same code over and over again. Okay, so this is what we have, property, and then we want to change the property from here, so we don't have to be writing it over again. So we just go to do, and then instead of true, we do it props.property, because it's already taken, props.completed, because it's already taken a property. So props can be so many things at the same time, so many things. We can even change it to props.something, props.name. We could still change it to props.name since it is eat. We still change it to props.name since it is eat, right? So, we can change it to props.name so that it takes so that it's when the name changes to sleep, here automatically becomes sleep. Do you get it? Yeah. So we can change it to props.name, and then the same thing applies to here. Anywhere you see it, because that's not the only to-do that we have, right? That's not the only to-do that we have. bingo. So now we'll have some of them checked and some of them unchecked. I mean, isn't React beautiful? Wow, wow. I'm so excited. React is awesome, right? React is very, very awesome. So we can also decide to give each to do an ID, okay? So ID 1, ID 2, ID 3. We actually use ID so that we can be able to manipulate it however we want it. So yeah, so I can change it to an ID, right? So let's do that. So each to do on our app.js now has another property called ID, right? And then we make that effect. So where we have ID, we just replace it by props.id. I didn't have to check it. I mean, I'm sure by now you are getting accustomed to the code. I mean, I'm sure you said it in your head before I even said that. Okay, so props.id, right? Yeah, makes it awesome, right? So now wherever we can change, when the name changes, the ID changes as well. So yeah, there's so many things you can do with properties and components, okay? But for now, I think we'll have to, we can end it here. We can end it here and then go further next time. I don't want to pile up the things that you know. Yeah, so we take it one bit, take it little by little. So at the end of every section, you get to know one particular thing. Yeah, so our next tutorial will be on tags as data, all right? So for now, you know how to use props and you know what component in React is and how to use components in React. So till next time, thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel.